Hey everyone, let's dive in. So first off, how about that snow? We've been seeing snow in some really unusual places, and it's been piling up. Yesterday, parts of Louisiana shattered records with snowfall totals reaching up to 9 inches. Let that sink in for a second. Louisiana, a place we usually associate with heat and hurricanes, just got blanketed in snow. Good for man. It wasn't just Louisiana. The snow also made its way through Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia. As we speak, it's spreading into the Carolinas, and it's not just snow. Take a look at this. See that pink shading on the map. That's a wintry mix. It could be sleet, rain, or a combination of both with ice pellets falling from the sky. It's even showing up near Jacksonville in northern Florida, moving into Georgia, and continuing into the Carolinas. These are regions we typically track during hurricane season, but today we're focusing on winter storms. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. So what's causing all this? Well, it's all about the cold air plunging farther south than usual and colliding with a massive weather system. This system has been stretching across the southeastern U.S., meeting that Arctic air and creating these dramatic weather conditions. The impact has been widespread, reaching all the way up into Atlantic Canada and even heading toward Bermuda. But the Caribbean is telling a different story. There's a warming trend happening in some spots, along with rain building across areas like Guyana and parts of Central America. I'll get into the Caribbean details in just a bit, but first let's zoom in on this snow. Snow is continuing to fall across parts of the Carolinas, Georgia, and even northern Florida. That wintry mix will linger for a few more hours before the system starts to move offshore later today. And meanwhile, that front is stretching all the way down to Cuba, and on the southern end of it, we're seeing scattered showers. It's fascinating how this one system is bringing completely different weather depending on where you are. Let's shift gears for a second and talk about the Caribbean. There's a lot of moisture building near Guyana and Trinidad, and some areas could see significant rainfall over the next few days. Spotty showers are also popping up in places like Barbados, Antigua, and Dominica, and the rain chances are expected to increase as we move through the week. I'll break down those numbers for you in a moment. Looking ahead to the weekend, we're tracking another system moving into Texas and Louisiana, but this one is going to behave differently. There's warmer air moving in from the Gulf. So unlike the snow we just saw in the south, this next system is expected to bring more rain instead. That warmer air is going to push the snow line farther north, and I'll keep an eye on how that evolves. Speaking of snow, let's go back to those record-breaking totals in Louisiana for a second. Snow cover plays a huge role in temperatures, and it's actually helping to create an unusual pocket of Arctic air in the south. We're seeing sub-zero temperatures in some areas, and when you factor in the wind chill, it feels even colder. This Arctic air is also stretching into parts of Mexico, which is pretty rare. As we move into next week, we're expecting a slight warming trend. You'll notice more orange tones on the temperature map, which means that next week's storms won't have the same southern snow potential. However, the northern U.S. and parts of Canada are still in the grip of very cold air, so winter is far from over. Now, if you're near the coast, let's talk about the seas. Conditions are pretty rough right now, especially in the Atlantic. Waves are hitting around 13 feet in the Bay of Campeche, and we're expecting the choppy conditions to continue through the weekend. If you're planning to be out on the water, make sure to stay safe and keep an eye on the forecast. All right, let's get into the rain chances in the Caribbean. Trinidad and Guyana are expected to see the heaviest rain, with totals reaching up to 3 inches in some areas over the next 3 days. Flooding could become an issue in isolated spots, so we're monitoring that closely. Meanwhile, places like Barbados, St. Lucia, and Grenada will see scattered showers with rain chances around 30-50 depending on the day. Jamaica and the Cayman Islands have lower rain chances, staying around 20-30 for now, but we'll keep you updated if that changes. For those of you in the Northern Caribbean, including Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, rain chances are holding steady at around 30. Meanwhile, the Bahamas are dealing with some cooler weather, and rain chances are a bit higher in the northern islands compared to the southern ones. Over in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, rain chances are relatively low, but there's still a possibility of passing showers as the front continues to shift. As we look ahead to next week, we'll be keeping an eye on how the weather patterns evolve. Another storm system is expected to develop, but with slightly warmer air moving in. It's going to bring rain to areas that saw snow this week. It's rain. It's a reminder of how quickly things can change this time of year. Let's look at the past 24 hours. From the Houston area over to Lake Charles, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and all the way down to New Orleans, we've seen widespread snow totals of about 4 to 6 inches. But that's not all. South central Louisiana has been hit with some pretty intense snow, with areas near Lafayette getting anywhere from 6 to 8 inches, and some places even seeing up to 12 inches of snow. It's a lot for this region, and it's creating major travel disruptions. So if you're out and about, be careful. If we zoom out and look at the larger picture of winter weather alerts, you can see winter storm warnings stretch from New Orleans across southern Mississippi, Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle. These warnings even reach into central Georgia and parts of the Carolinas. Winter weather advisories are also in place for areas like Atlanta, Columbia, and Raleigh. So if you're in any of these regions, make sure you're prepared for the storm, especially as we head into tonight. Looking at the map of tonight's weather, we're seeing heavy snow breaking out across parts of the Gulf Coast, especially up through south central Georgia and into the Carolinas. The heaviest snow will be closest to the low pressure system's track, which means places near the coast could see the heaviest snowfall rates. In fact, we're expecting snow rates of about 1 to 2 inches per hour overnight as the storm pushes further east. At the same time, areas like Savannah, Georgia, and Jacksonville, Florida, could be seeing freezing rain and sleet as part of this system. As we move into Wednesday morning, we should start seeing the worst of the storm pushing off the coast, but there will still be some lingering snow in places like Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, Charleston, and Savannah. In northern Florida, including areas like Tallahassee and Jacksonville, might see a rain-snow mix and even a little bit of freezing rain, so travel could still be tricky Wednesday morning in those areas. Looking at snow totals for the next 24 hours, we could see an additional 6 to 12 inches of snow in parts of North Florida, South Central Georgia, and the Carolinas, especially closer to the coast. Charleston and Myrtle Beach could see around 8 inches, and places like Wilmington and Cape Hatteras could get between 5 to 8 inches. But it's not just snow that we need to worry about. Icing is also a concern. Areas like Gainesville and Jacksonville in northern Florida could pick up to 0.2 of an inch of ice, which could lead to dangerous travel conditions. So as we head into tonight and Wednesday, be prepared for significant travel disruptions in the Gulf Coast, Southeast, and up into the Mid-Atlantic. We're talking major impacts from New Orleans all the way up to places like Savannah, Charleston, Wilmington, and Myrtle Beach. Road conditions will start to improve a bit as the sun comes out on Wednesday, even though it's still going to be cloudy. But the sun angle will help warm up the pavement, and we should start to see some melting of the snow and ice, especially on the roads. So there's a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, but we're not out of the woods just yet. Let's shift our focus to the Great Lakes region, where we've got some serious lake effect snow happening. Areas downwind of Lake Michigan, Lake Erie, and Lake Ontario are getting hammered with heavy snow. In fact, some regions around western New York, particularly near Watertown, could see up to 6 to 8 feet of snow by the time this system wraps up. Yes, you heard that right. 6 to 8 feet of snow. That's just incredible. This is going to happen over the course of the next couple of days, with totals continuing to pile up through Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Now, we also have some extremely cold Arctic air settling in across parts of the Northeast and Quebec. In fact, parts of Quebec could see air temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below zero, with wind chills approaching 50 degrees below zero in some areas. It's going to be brutally cold in the Northeast, Great Lakes, and parts of the Midwest. By the middle of the week, temperatures will start to warm up a little in the Midwest, and by the weekend, we're expecting a noticeable temperature recovery across the central U.S. The freezing line will start to push further north, which will help bring some relief from the cold, though the Northeast and Great Lakes will still be dealing with the colder air for a little while longer. Let's talk about the situation out in Southern California, which is a whole different story. We're dealing with extremely critical fire weather conditions right now, with red flag warnings in place across much of the region. Relative humidity values are forecast to stay very low, between 5 and 10% through Wednesday and Thursday, with a little improvement on Friday. But even on Friday, we're still looking at dangerously dry conditions. Areas like Los Angeles, Santa Clarita, and San Bernardino are under the gun, and the situation isn't expected to improve anytime soon. Unfortunately, there's no rain in sight for the next few days, so Southern California is going to be stuck in this fire-prone situation for a while longer. Looking ahead, the temperature outlook for the rest of January shows that while temperatures will start to moderate in the Midwest and Northern Plains, it'll still be colder than normal in places like the Northeast and out west in Southern California and Arizona. The good news is that the Pacific Northwest might get some heavier snow, and parts of the South could see some rain as well. But overall, we're still expecting a fairly dry trend across California, especially in the north. As we move into early February, the first week of the month looks to be pretty active, with cold air retreating further to the north. A battle zone will form between the colder air to the north and milder air to the south, which could lead to some storm systems developing along that line. This setup could bring snow and rain to parts of the Midwest, Great Lakes, and the South. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that, and I'll update you as things develop. That's all the weather I have for you today. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the latest updates on the winter storm, lake effect snow, Southern California wildfires, and the early February outlook. I'll be back tomorrow with another video, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, stay safe, stay warm, and I'll see you soon.